Well, Aardman games have sure gone down the toilet.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year! Is it too late to say that? Probably. Anyway, this year I'm intending to tackle some of my most highly requested games, beginning with the Flushed Away game for PS2.
And not only that, this month is something special, as I'm joined by George of Headphones UK.
Alright, me darlings. Oh yes, a few more viewers I can sponge off of. It's been a while since I've done that.
I'm sorry?
I mean, it's been a while since I did my last crossover video. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Let's crack on, shall we?
Flushed Away is an interesting venture for Aardman. While we're all used to their charming and hilarious stop-motion plasticine outings like Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run, this movie adopts a slightly different look, it being entirely computer animated. And while I prefer their more elaborate stop-motion ventures, this is not what I'd call Aardman to swallow.
Oh my god, that was terrible.
Yes, well, let's move on, shall we? Before the jokes get any worse.
Agreed. If you saw my Aardman review of the movie, you'll know that I did like it, but I felt that there was likely a lot of studio interference with how the animation, writing, and music were very different from the previous Aardman movies. So it'll be interesting to see if the game suffers the same fate, since Chicken Run and Were Rabbit beforehand both captured the feel of their movies in their game perfectly.
Oi! Developed by Monkey Bar Games, the gameplay is nothing outstanding, but to begin with, I feel it's entertaining enough. Although none of the voice actors from the movie reprise their roles, it nonetheless captures the tone of the movie fairly well. But once the first few levels are out the way, the game goes down the pan very rapidly.
And not in the way it should.
While at first it seems to follow the plot of the film rather well, it quickly devolves into a sewer of uninspired tasks and confounding level design. At times, I genuinely found this to be one of the most confusing movie games I've ever played.
Run away! Run as fast as you can!
We begin the game in Roddy's living room, which appears to be almost as blindingly bright as Wonka's TV room.
My eyes!
Here we meet Roddy's hamster butlers, Gilbert and Sullivan.
Yes, sir!
I guess Roddy's owners are big fans of the Pirates of Penzance. These characters are exclusive to the game, which kinda ruins the whole development of Roddy's character in how he was all alone in his house, but regardless, they set up an obstacle course for Roddy which leads into our tutorial level.
Very good, sir.
Here the game teaches you the basics. That is, it's supposed to. The on-screen text tells you how to do the simplest of things, like double jumping.
Because of course, we've never been taught how to do that before.
And yet they never thought to inform you of what these floating coloured bubbles are.
As it turns out, jumping on these makes Roddy fly briefly using his sword, I guess. The purple and blue ones propel you forward and the orange and yellow ones make you go higher. But what really hinders them and the platforming in general is the camera. It may not seem like it from the footage, but the camera seems far too close to the character you're controlling, which makes it hard to tell what's around you.
Wow, that was hilariously abrupt, but okay.
Time to work on your fencing skills, sir.
Pressing the square button makes Roddy perform a simple attack, which we can practice on this chess piece. We're then told that the triangle button makes you perform a so-called advanced attack. Okay, but there's nothing here to practice on. Do I just attack the chess piece again, or
Hey, give me a warning at least, you cheeky little bastard.
You can also perform a special move by attacking with square and subsequently rotating the analog stick.
Yeah, whatever is paying you guys, it's really not enough.
Shall we move on? Do something a little less painful.
We then need to cross the bookshelves. Roddy can push and pull items with the circle button and also sidle across ledges. And you need to do all this while avoiding all the books and golf balls. This is more awkward than it needs to be, however, thanks to a frankly rather slow jump. Roddy's movements are very clunky and it makes platforming something of a chore. Fortunately, this game doesn't have a set number of lives, and the checkpoints are fairly regular. The trouble is, they never actually specify when you've passed one, so sometimes you can die and be sent back a few steps, and other times you'll find yourself having to repeat the same mindless repetitive tasks over and over again.
Believe me, once was more than enough.
Interestingly, Roddy's health bar is indicated by the same ruby that was in the first half of the movie, which is a nice nod, especially since that ruby turned out to be fake and shattered. Much like your health bar will if you don't pay attention here, because this level gets quite annoying and confusing later on. Collecting rubies you find laying around also restores your health. Also, I do love what's written on some of these boxes littered around the level. It really does remind me of the humour of the movie, especially the box that simply says, "It's cereal." Yes, it is.
What was that? After hearing a clatter in the kitchen, we head over to investigate. Once we eventually make it to the sink...
That's just lovely.
As it turns out, Sid the Fat Rat has taken up residence in your home. As in the movie, he usurps your place and promptly flushes you down the toilet.
Bon voyage, mate!
And we never see Gilbert and Sullivan again. Well, they were pointless.
And to be honest, they probably won't miss you either, considering how you almost maimed them. You deserve to be flushed away. Good riddance, Roddy.
Interestingly, or fittingly enough, the game starts going downhill, or down the pipes as it were, once Roddy is flushed down the toilet. I know, very fitting, isn't it? For one, the sewer city is very bleak and uninteresting, and I know it sounds odd to say that a sewer doesn't look pretty, but the movie managed to make it look colourful and creative, and while there are some funny signs in the background like in any good Aardman movie, and a few creative designs in the buildings and boats, it doesn't feel as funny as the things in Roddy's house were, and most of the ones that do work are just ripped whole hog from the movie anyway.
I'll agree it looks a little murky, but all the same, kudos to the developers for at least attempting to mimic the location seen in the movie. At this stage I actually found it pretty cool to walk around here, and it's fairly expansive too. Not only can you explore underground Piccadilly, but you can also visit Soho and Chinatown, although there's nothing to do in these places just yet.
Not from around here, are you, love?
I also appreciate that they tried to maintain a bustling atmosphere, although I really dislike how everyone stops to look at you all the time.
Interesting. Would you take a look at this bloke?
Cannot walk around here without you all gawking at me, you freaks.
My, aren't we a fancy gent?
Here we meet Socket Set,
Or as I like to call him, Rodent Delboy.
What a plonker.
an unscrupulous salesman who has a special job for you.
I got this consignment here from a well-heeled gent. Oh, it's much like yourself. He's requesting a collection of rare, exotic, hard to find, extraordinary flies.
Wait, what? Flies? Why am I doing this?
This sounds like a side quest to me, but there's literally nowhere else to turn at this stage in the game. So out of nowhere, we then find ourselves navigating a sewer in search of flies.
How did you ever get yourself into this predicament?
I don't know, you tell me. I don't know what we're doing here.
And of course, where there are flies, there are also likely to be...
Of course. What would a crap movie game be without them? It's a...
Wait! Michael, can I say it, please?
Oh, go on then.
Thank you. It's a giant spider! Always wanted to say that.
I shall spin webs no more.
The enemies all make comments in battle. While at first this is amusing, they get irritating fast.
Blimey, Pope.
I also am not sure why the slugs are attacking me when they were only seen screaming and singing in the movie.
What did I do to them?
Some may find this disturbing given how much they were a major comic relief in the movie, but personally I'm happy about killing them since I found the slugs kind of annoying in the film. Okay, they're not as annoying as these slugs.
Boom!
But still, they're pretty annoying. Granted, these slugs do give off some good puns when you kill them.
I've been assaulted.
These could give our puns a run for their money.
Much of these locations are incredibly dark. I mean, it's not the worst case of lighting I've experienced. Acme Arsenal still takes a top prize for that. But I have to say, parts of this game come pretty damn close. It's often hard to see what's directly in front of you, and even turning up the TV brightness doesn't help all that much.
I can't see a thing. Am I a mouse or a mole?
Something that's also very annoying is how Roddy takes damage from falling from too great a height. Which, while annoying in and of itself, the game gives no indication of how high you have to fall from to get damaged. In most 3D platformers, when your character falls from a great height, they start acting like they're falling. But here, Roddy does nothing of the sort, which is even more annoying in how inconsistent the fall height threshold is, as sometimes it feels like he can fall from a much higher height and not have a scratch, and other times he falls 2 inches and dies. I guess rats don't land on their feet after all.
That's cats.
No, I've thrown enough rats out of windows to find that out.
What?
Nothing?
Throughout the game, you also collect salvage. It's never really explained, but the inventory in the menu reveals that there are 3 types of salvage: mint condition, standard, and worn, each fetching a different price. Salvage can be sold in exchange for money, which can not only be used to purchase items such as health segments, but it can also be used to purchase bonus content in the main menu. And when I say bonus content, it's not nearly as interesting as it sounds. 90% of this is the screenshots from the movie, which really isn't worth the effort.
Just buy the DVD and watch it. It's a far better use of your time.
Completing the mission rewards you with money, and Socket Set congratulates you. Sort of.
Oh, I'll be swimming in quick. Oh, never mind that, yeah.
Is anyone here actually talking or just making guttural noises?
After this mission is over, we are abruptly put into the shoes of Rita. Yeah, no introduction or anything, we're just playing as Rita now. Thanks for the heads up, game. Who is looking to break into the Toad's base to retrieve her stolen ruby? I don't know why you're bothering, there's rubies all over the joint, just take them and be on your way. What makes this even more jarring is that we're now in a stealth section. I guess Aardman games have an affinity for that.
Chickens.
And much like the Treasure Planet PS1 game, stealth means avoid the torchlight of these peripherally vision challenged guards. Hell, even if they do spot you, you can just run away from them a little and they'll give up.
Alright now you, I've got you, I can't be arsed.
I can see you're paying good money for your security, Toad.
Given that the patrolling rats are all carrying torches, I too initially thought this was a stealth section. I'm not sure if you picked up on this, but it turns out that you can just kill them out in the open and nobody bats an eyelid.
That's not very stealthy, now is it?
As you can tell, Rita attacks with a bungee cord, which you can also use to hook onto objects and yank herself over to them. While the controls are expectedly clunky, I thought this was a nice touch. Getting caught is rather irritating, however, as you're constantly shown the same cutscene ad infinitum.
You'll be sleeping with the fishes. Oh, I like fishes, Spike.
Okay, try again. Oh, for
You'll be sleeping with the fish.
Sometimes I feel like the game could give you more of a warning when something's about to happen. For example, these wooden planks break underfoot, but there's absolutely no way of knowing this will happen.
Give me a sporting chance!
Anyway, eventually we find the Toad is sleeping. Well, just about. We need to hide behind objects whenever he wakes, as we need to make our way to the ruby. And once again, I must commend the game for its accuracy. Aspects of this area look like they're taken directly from the movie itself. As expected, stealing the ruby triggers an alarm, and we need to avoid Spike and Whitey as we make our escape. A little further along, we need to surf down some pipes. This is a lot like the tree surfing levels of Tarzan. Only I'm a lot better at this one because it's rather slow and boring by comparison.
Not unlike the game in its entirety, to be honest.
Before too long, Roddy meets Rita, who warns him to stay low.
Stealth is my speciality.
The cutscenes are fairly entertaining and amusing at times, but some lines are interesting to say the least.
Don't let her get away!
It's not my birthday. It's only Tuesday.
What the hell was that about?
Anyway, next we need to take the helm of the Jammy Dodger. My assumption is that this was initially intended to be some respite from the awkward platforming, but it's so unbelievably tedious. The boat is so slow, and if anything it makes the game drag more so. With the Jammy Dodger, you can use various means of attack, depending on which station of the boat you decide to occupy. The various ammunition can be purchased from vendors, or found in random spots on the map. Although, to be honest, I mostly found myself using the Roman candle missiles. Everything else is completely unnecessary and not worth wasting your moolah on. That, and it seems the game can't even perform basic maths. Get this, I had 85 coins. I spent 31 coins on ammo, which left me with 53 coins? Yeah, how'd you figure that one out? I've been swindled. I knew I should never have trusted that socket set. I think it's time I gave him a piece of my mind.
It's fantastic to see you!
Finding these rings in the water indicates that there's salvage to be found below. Utilizing the boat's mechanical hand, you simply need to tap the correct buttons to retrieve the salvage. And yes, it's as boring as it sounds.
Doesn't this collection of rubbish and rust go any faster?
Oi! You want to watch your mouth?
We then need to escape the Toad's, hench rats, which would probably be more exciting if it didn't feel like we were trying to steer a bloody wardrobe. The lag on this thing is painful.
To be honest, the controls for this part of the game aren't nearly as bad as I thought. Granted, the lack of a brake button making it so you can't drift does make sharp turns a pain, but considering how clunky the controls have been so far, I was expecting a lot worse.
The final sequence sees you practice using the various other attacks to ward off the rats.
Give up, my dear.
And despite making our triumphant escape, we then find ourselves in the clutches of the Toad.
Yeah, that was a waste of time.
I think it's time you meet your maker. Your ice maker.
We then switch back to Roddy as we escape the Toad's freezing room. Hooray! More horrible platforming! Woohoo! If you ever get stuck, clicking and holding R3 when prompted will point you in the right direction. After avoiding more utterly useless guards, we need to chase after the Jammy Dodger.
I guess at this point we're fortunate that it's so slow.
Eventually I came across this fat rat. So wait, what? Do I have to kill him? Why is he not responding?
Toad, you could get away, eh?
Ah, nothing gets past you.
I'll knock you bum over elbow, mate!
Wow, someone's got a potty mouth.
Suppose that's kind of fitting considering where we are. Carry on.
In we go!
We then return to Piccadilly, where the crazy guy informs us that a great flood is coming.
The end is nigh!
We can only hope.
Now, regardless of the lackluster controls, at this point the game seems to have followed the plot of the movie fairly well. But that all changes pretty dramatically as we have to speak to Charlie Wu.
Woo? Woo-hoo!
Now, Michael, this is no time for cheering.
Oh, no, I don't know these guys. They weren't in the movie. See what I mean when I say this game is confusing?
I don't know if the game developers felt they needed something to pad out the game some more, or if they just got bored adapting the movie. You almost get whiplash in how quickly they've stopped covering the story. Plot shifts. Murder on the neck.
As it turns out, Charlie Wu is actually a Cockney geezer masquerading as a Chinese stereotype.
As Confucius once said, if merchandise not to customers' liking, customers should get out of my shop.
Yeah, it treads that fine line between amusing and sort of kind of racist, to be honest. I'm not really sure this would fly today.
Oh, cringe.
Anyway, Wu sends you on a mission to save a local orphanage from a flood.
Sounds pretty urgent. I guess I better make my way over there.
But instead of doing this right away, as would be expected, I decided to perform some additional side quests. Yes, I really am that heartless.
Ah, screw the orphans, let them drown.
If you visit Socket Set and his nemesis Charlie Wu separately throughout the game, they'll give you optional tasks for extra money. These mostly involve taking out the opposing traders' thugs in Chinatown and Soho.
Looks like sudden death.
And finding hidden salvage. I'm not going to talk a lot about these missions, most of them are incredibly similar, although some are more frustrating than others. The worst is a mission in which you need to hunt down some salvage for socket sets whilst taking out the fruit-flinging fat guys on the rooftops. Roddy's movements are so slow, and they're especially hard to avoid while you're performing a jump. Just lay off, guys, give me a chance. I was also rather pissed off when I managed to get past these guys, only to find that the bubbles that are supposed to carry you over to the next building hadn't appeared, and because of this glitch I had to start over.
Jesus Christ, this is the worst game I've ever played.
Really?
Well, it's in the bottom 40, probably.
I do feel that this game missed an opportunity to be a bit more open world, something that even Chicken Run and Were Rabbit managed to do a bit better, especially since Flushed Away would have been a much more fitting game for that mechanic. But no, the game is incredibly linear. And while there are some parts where you can explore a little bit, it really doesn't matter, because aside from meeting people to start missions, there's really no point in exploring the sewer further, something I think that any sewer worker could vouch for. More's the pity really, because both previous Aardman games had a feeling that the developers really enjoyed their time on the game, and also took advantage of their circumstances, which is especially impressive given the restricted premise for a video game. But with this, you really don't get that same feel, which is a tragedy since, like I said, there's a lot of opportunities in here for a video game, more so than the last two movies, and yet it just didn't happen. I would have expected more out of the developers that brought us Curious George, and Dora the Explorer, and Despicable Me the game. Okay, so perhaps Monkey Bar weren't the best choice for this game.
Oh, just shut up and shove off.
Anyway, as for the orphanage mission, we return to our floating brick of a boat as we have to find a large clogged drain and unblock it, and then race back before we drown.
Remember how I said the boat controls weren't as bad as they could be? Well, I take it all back, because this level is hell. The level design is ridiculous. You're constantly crashing into things, getting stuck, and you have an extremely limited time limit to do it in. Simpsons Hit and Run had more lenient time limits than this.
Safe and sound.
I'll be honest, up until about halfway through, I personally found this level to be, well, plain sailing.
If you'll pardon the pun.
Ugh.
Sorry.
But I encountered problems on the way back. It took me several attempts to lift the boat over some obstacles, and I drowned several times before realizing that the boats can actually jump. I don't recall their ever telling me this. Did they just neglect to tell me this vital piece of information?
No big deal, it just cost us our lives, it's fine.
Upon our triumphant return, well, nothing happens. Well, now what? Maybe the crackpot doommonger can help.
My son, the path which was once clear is near filled with a granular and particle-laden flow. You know, mud.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop talking to him.
If we speak to Socket Set, he sends us on a mission to retrieve another jar of flies. Yeah, I'm starting to think that they're running out of ideas by this point.
How about following the movie? Yeah, you should try that.
Following our descent into darkness,
well, darker darkness,
we encounter a hungry black, sorry, that's purple widow spider.
Of course, the quick snack first always makes the housework more fun. Don't you think?
Well, yes, a spot of lunch does sound nice. What are we having?
At first I found this battle quite tricky. I kept attacking her, but it seemed like my attacks weren't doing anything. It turns out you have to pick up these spider eggs and throw them at her, which opens her up for attack. After that, the battle is insanely easy.
You are making me very angry now.
But the fact that it's never indicated how you beat her makes what should be a cakewalk a walk over gravel and broken glass. Once she's defeated, a secret passage opens up, leading to your prize, a new sword.
Wait, hold on, I thought we were looking for flies.
Hey, yeah, good point.
This game has enough trouble following its own plot, let alone the movies.
As for the new sword, I personally don't see the point in it when almost every enemy dies from 3 hits anyway, but whatever.
You're gonna be a man down, lads.
In fact, this one appears to be worse, since now it takes 4 hits to kill the enemies.
Goodbye!
What was the point?
Far away in the sacred pool of salvage, great wealth may be gained.
We then learn of a so-called sacred pool of salvage somewhere in Soho, but crowds of football hooligans can be heard nearby as they've turned up to celebrate England having made it to the World Cup finals. Well, now we know this is a work of fiction.
I think it might be best if we get out of here as quickly as possible.
I heartily agree.
Okay, so this level sees you having to navigate the sewers to find the pool, finding ways to activate the switches to open the various gates along the way.
And as for the hooligans, well, stab them, I guess. They'll be fine.
To activate the first gate, we simply need to find the switch. But in the next area, we need to repair the switch first by locating 3 missing gears. And in the next area, the waterway is not only closed off by a gate, but it's also blocked by crates. Yeah, don't do what I did and get your boat stuck in here, it was hell trying to get out. While on foot, we find this crane. Use the crane to drop exploding onions. What?
Onions? What's going on now? I'm so confused!
This is a game called Pathfinder, in which you have to use onion bombs to move boxes around to make a path between the ports. The problem is you only have a limited number of bombs, the wooden crates break after a few moves, and the game won't be satisfied unless you make a perfect path. Look, I can walk over that perfectly. It doesn't matter if there's one gap, I can jump over it. But no, it has to be a seamless path. Picky wankers!
Indeed, this game is about as boring as it sounds. Although the developers obviously thought this was gripping enough to turn it into a minigame in the main menu. Yep, you can play this game as many times as you like, just for fun.
Yes, well, I think the developers have a different definition of fun to me.
Eventually we find some pools of salvage, although it's not made explicitly clear that this is the pool you're looking for. Immediately afterwards, this level very abruptly ends.
I guess that's that then.
Not long after that, you're forced to play an awful tower defense game called Castle Siege out of nowhere. No build-up, no establishment, it just happens. Wait, I'm building castles now? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm just as confused as you. This part gives you absolutely no direction whatsoever.
I mean, why start now, I suppose?
The idea is to use our ammo to take out the flags of Germany's castle before they take out ours.
Another one down!
This minigame can also be accessed from the main menu. You know, should you actually want to be bored shitless by choice.
Nice shot! Oh.
Shortly afterwards, we're ambushed by Le Frog.
I am so sorry for the startling. I am, how you say, stealthy.
Stealthy?
That's what you said!
Le Frog intends to take you to his cousin, the Toad, but Rita and Roddy manage to escape.
Run, Roddy, run!
First, we need to take control of Rita, using her bungee to escape the frogs. While it was fairly awkward to avoid their attacks, I was doing rather well at this until my bungee failed to retract. I couldn't see any way of alleviating this issue, so I had no choice but to start over again.
The bounce has gone from his bungee.
After this, Roddy must face Le Frog in a boss level.
You cannot defeat Le Frog.
Here you simply have to wait until he taunts you, and then you can slice him to your heart's content.
With your Britpop singers and your large Ben clocks.
Frog's legs, anyone?
Doodlepip.
I guess you could say the frog croaked.
Ugh.
Sorry.
We're then taken to the Toad, who's about to put his plan into action.
The Amphibian Dawn.
Oh, I forgot Toad had an ultimate plan because he's barely appeared in the whole game. Rodent Delboy's more prolific in this game than you are.
What a plonker.
Okay, so for those who don't know the plot, the Toad's plan is to flush away all the rodents in the sewers so the amphibians can take over.
Quite obvious, really.
Oh, it is not obvious.
And he can do this by opening the floodgates when everyone in London goes to the toilet during the World Cup final half-time.
The city will be destroyed by a great flush.
I only thought I'd mention this as the game hasn't mentioned anything to do with the movie's plot for some time now. First we need to lure the Toad into throwing bottles at his own machinery. Once all three, machiney things are destroyed, we switch to Rita.
We don't want to hurt you. Well, we do, but we're kind of knackered right now, to be honest.
Rita's part of the last boss fight is actually kind of clever. She has to fight the Toad's henchmen in a room full of traps activated by her bungee rope, and each henchman is vulnerable to a certain trap. Sadly, the battle's over all too quickly once you figure out what you're doing. And then this leads into Roddy's next phase, which begins with the two worst things in the game besides the minigames, climbing and the awful camera.
Indeed, some of the worst platforming sections of the game come right at the end.
Nice to know they saved the best till last, eh?
Rita then needs to activate the switches dotted around the arena to deactivate the Toad's machine.
You shall never escape. I'm hopping back now.
This leads to the final boss, which sees the Toad continue to throw bottles at us.
Don't want to try something else, so great and powerful villain?
Should he hit the weak platforms you stand on too often, they eventually collapse. The idea is to use your bungee to yank the bottle out of his hands and then destroy the Toad's platforms, eventually sending him plummeting to his demise.
Well done.
With the Toad vanquished, Roddy decides to join Rita as her first mate.
You gonna stand there gaping, or are you coming down?
Although with absolutely no character development at all, this makes no sense whatsoever. Not that Gilbert and Sullivan are going to be worried sick or anything. Let's just hope they haven't died from their injuries, eh? And, well, that's it.
You did that on purpose. I demand an apology.
Tell you what, I'll let you be captain every other day.
The end?
Let's bloody hope so.
Very good, sir.
In my opinion, this game starts off fairly promising. Despite the awkward controls, there's a lot of detail in the various locations, and they did attempt to capture the humour of the movie, even if most of these attempts fall flat on their face.
I wonder if I left the kettle on at home.
But it eventually becomes a very dull, confusing and irritating game, mostly due to the repetitive tasks and a complete lack of direction. I don't think this game is intentionally difficult, I just think there are many parts that require more explanation. But is it really the worst thing I've ever played? Well, we know for a fact that's not true.
I do feel that there was a lot of missed potential in this game. Regardless of what you think of the movie, it still remains to this day one of the most action-packed and creative Aardman films ever, and the thought of utilising those elements and expanding on them in a game seems like a match made in heaven, but sadly it just didn't deliver. The previous Aardman games were surprise hits, both critically and financially, but this one just feels like a cheap cash grab shovelware game pawned off to a 2-bit developer in the hopes of making some money back. Frankly, this game deserves to be flushed away.
Hey, that was my line. I mean, could not have put it better myself.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed the video. It wasn't the most inspiring game to start the year with. I was actually really disappointed considering how good Chicken Run and Curse the Were-Rabbit are, but never mind. Anyway, a massive thank you to George for working with me on this video. It was a lot of fun. If you want to check out his channel HeadphonesUK, feel free to do so. As I said earlier, I'm aiming to cover some long-awaited requests this year, although next month I'm planning on doing something a little different. That depends on how well it goes though, so don't hold me to that. Either way, I'll see you soon. Hope you enjoyed everyone. Like, subscribe, share, and all that jazz. Bye bye for now.